How are you doing, Ann?
Hi. Well, I survived my driving trip to South Carolina and back, and 2 weeks of dog sitting, and but I got out to Spokane, Washington to see my granddaughter.
That's a lot of traveling.
It was. So it's taken me a couple days to recover because there was some. Well, okay, I'm learning to call them gifts, right? Along the way,
right?
Challenge gifting challenges. I don't know how to put them, but I made it through those. But then it kind of offset my whole rhythm of my body and my, thinking. But anyway, it was all safe and it was all good after the fact. When you look back. So I put my hand up because I was trying to catch Dr. Tim before he got off, but I'll try to see if I can't catch it tomorrow. I don't have any Wi-Fi, so my internet got fixed, but my Wi-Fi thing isn't. And when I called in the company for the Wi-Fi, the ACES, they were having issues. So I'm going to have to call them again. But, not get a recording. Hopefully I'll get somebody to help walk me through how to do. I tried the reset a couple of times, but I don't know if they're still having trouble. Anyway, part of what I was, when I probably only got the last half of his show, but he's often talked, and I know Michael and you have, read things are different. I remember him talking in the intensives. You've been overseas and to different places and on the West Coast and talked to like a Dalai Lama person. That's the only way I can say it, because monk or whatever, spiritual teachers and Dr. Tim has referenced that, he's read some things over the years that he put away because he says, no, I can't handle this, right? And so I just had that experience with a CD that was called The Power of Now, and I was going to ask him, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with the person that is being interviewed on there sounds like a spiritual teacher, and I've listened to it a couple of other times over the years. It was way out there for me, right? But now when I got back from the trip.
Is that Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now that you're talking about?
I have no idea, because all the discs said, I think someone copied it for me, which I'm not even sure if I remember the person that gave it to me. He just sounds like, a spiritual teacher that when you hear them, I don't know, they just have this nice, quiet voice and direct, no ifs, ands, does, whatever, when they talk. And the girl that was interviewing was just like, I want to say, the only phrase I can think of is the old phrase of the devil's advocate, where she's asking questions that, wait, I don't understand. And so he would put it a different way, right? I heard it totally different after my experiences, driving, coming back this time from the trip. And it's like, I know it's because I've been listening to you guys, the radio show, been doing some of the work, still working on consistency. But it took on a different meaning. And it took on that, staying in the present, because he talks so much about it. But he also brought in scripture and talked about, Yeshua and his teachings and putting it into that. So it could very well be who you just said. Anyway, I'm going to be listening to it a couple more times at least. It's one of those things, like Dr. Tim was just saying, that the essay that he just read today at the end, that he was going to go over it a couple more times, and because he was triggered with some emotions, and that he would, just like you folks do sometimes, would share whatever comes up on a wake-up sheet, with us if possible. And that's what I'm thinking of this CD now. I need to listen to it, get quiet, and listen to it a few more times and just absorb it more. Anyway.
Sounds like your brain cells.
Yeah. that's exactly what I was thinking when I started listening to it the first time the other night. Wow, must have the brain cells now.
Well, most people, they think they hear something, and when they think they hear something outside of them, they think they understand something that happened outside of them. But recognizing how the mind really works, what's happening is the mind is generating a reality, and if I don't have the same content as the presenter or the speaker of that reality in my mind, then I can't hear what they're saying. My mind will generate its own input. When I come to the point, what I hear you describing is a point where all of a sudden I go, oh, I don't have the brain cells for this yet, but this is something I want or I'm interested in. Then the work becomes building the brain cells so the mind can generate a matching reality to what's being presented. And it requires discipline. It requires doing one's work for sure. So, awesome.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like that aha moment. Oh, I must have the brain cells. I'm catching on to this now. Yeah. Well, and then Dr. Tim has been talking about things that, that were reiterating what I had just done. So I was going to share that, but I'll try to share that with him tomorrow because it's, I hear him say that so often too, because he referred back to, some book that he had read and put it down and tried it a couple different times. And finally, in more recent years, had read it again. And I go, that's exactly what's happening. And I go, wow, this is great.
Nice.
Anyway, yeah, so then you just repeat. and
I remember doing that.
So often it comes up. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, you finish.
Well, it just takes me back to your phrase of the 3 Ps, right? Practice, practice, practice.
Right, yes. Yes. Yeah, there's a book that I had recommended to me. This goes back, probably 25 years ago. And someone really raved about it. So I picked the book up and I couldn't even read it. I literally, I couldn't get past even a couple of paragraphs. It just didn't fit, didn't make any sense for me. And it was probably about 5 years later. I was on the road, and I was flying, which I didn't usually do. So I picked up a briefcase that I didn't usually use, and that book was in the briefcase. And so this is a period 5 years or so later, and when I opened the briefcase and saw that book, I pulled it out. I literally read it in one sitting, just devoured it and loved it. And 5 years earlier, I literally could not read it. So, I realized that probably the first time I looked at it, it inspired me to start building some new brain cells. And then, wow, it's like, whoa, some real insight here. So it's nice to have a community of friends that keep us, where everybody can keep uplifting everybody in that direction, for sure.
Absolutely, because it's just a reminder, and it goes back to our traditions or how we were brought up, and Dr. Tim and you both have talked about this, where it opens up possibilities for us. Okay, that the way we were brought up in a church environment, whichever one it was, if it was that we now are more open to other things. It doesn't have to be this rigid way that we were taught. However, I want to keep that foundation because I find the benefit of keeping that foundation, of the Bible, but now in the scriptures, the ancient scriptures, but like the work that you've done with the Enlightenment stuff, and then, but now I can keep that foundation, but be open to other things. So, yeah, and it's what's beneficial to us and what helps us do the inside job instead of their job. So anyway, blessings. Thank you so much.
Delighted. Thanks for calling in, and nice to hear your voice. How's your daughter doing?
Thanks. Oh, that's why I went up and got some physical issues going on, and I still have this cough headache, but I'm looking at different avenues, the inside job more now. to deal with it because I've been procrastinating. No surprise there, right? To do my wake-up sheets. But she's dealing with some physical things, and I was not in a place. I was open to receiving some stuff about eating better and from her, but it wasn't a time for me to share my inside job with her. She knows about it, you know,
right.
Just like me. I know I have the tools and I can use them. But so I was dog sitting and then got to, you know, see my granddaughter up in Spokane, Washington, to graduate from high school, and that was a delight. And even though I had only had a couple of days, but so yeah, cool. They're thinking of moving to Missouri, but they were going to move other places too. So now I'm on hold, and God is helping me to stay out of what they need to decide. You know, and so I'm going to hang out in Florida still for a while.
Be the space.
Yes, be the space. So as I heal, again, I know it goes back to, as I heal and do my work, then I will be able to resonate more of that. So, yes. Cool. Absolutely.
Sweet.
Good stuff.
Well, tell her we said hello and send our love.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Okay,
blessings.
You too. Mm-hmm. Thanks.
So do we want to read from Michael Singer's book, or do you have something else that you want to open with, Michael?
Well, let's open with that and see what unfolds. That's my thoughts in mind, but let's go with that.
Okay. So I looked it up, and The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle is written to get out of the analytical mind, and it's presented in a question-answer format. So I believe that is the one that you're listening to. Okay, so we've been reading from Michael Singer's book called The Untethered Soul. We're in Chapter 6, and Chapter 6 is The Secrets of the Spiritual Heart. And where we stopped reading last week was he talked about staying open and that being in that, he called it unending love, but we're going to say eternal love, continuing love, and continuing openness, that's the natural state that we should be in. To achieve this state, simply allow the experiences of life to come in and pass through your being. If old energies come back up because you were unable to process them before, let go of them now. It's that easy. And they had given the example of a Mustang, a light blue Mustang going by, and this person, that was their girlfriend's car, you know, and even though it was 5 years later and he's with someone else, it still triggers that emotion and everything. So when that light blue Mustang drives by and you feel fear or jealousy, just smile. Be happy that this samskara, which has been stored down there for all this time, now has the opportunity to make it through you. Just open. Relax your heart. They're talking about the spiritual heart. Forgive. Laugh. Do anything that you want. Just keep from pushing it down again. Release the pain. Of course, it hurts when it comes up. It's stored with pain, so it's going to release with pain. That's what we talk about.
Let me throw a thought in there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, one of the things that happens is we go through what we call a painful experience, and we don't, as he's talking about, don't let it move through us. We don't process it, so it's locked away. And then at some point later, it's resonated into activity, and people re-empower that old experience as present pain. And I think it makes a major difference when I recognize that this is not an experience of pain, this is an experience of a memory of pain. And that memory of pain doesn't need to be re-empowered to be a whole new, I mean, literally when we remember something, we have to build a whole set of what the word calls chemicals in the mind to reproduce that experience. It isn't just that the memory is laying there and bang, there it is. It's that the energetic dynamics are there and the mind has to restructure it. And when we realize that what the mind is doing is restructuring a memory of pain, we can, at least I found it to be useful, to recognize that and not have to re-empower it and make it the whole big trauma that it was initially, even though the memory tends to replicate that trauma. We don't have to re-empower it as a live today thing. It makes a difference. Did that make sense?
Yes, it did. I was trying to type notes as you were talking. So.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely. It can come back up. We talked about that when something is suppressed, it creates symptoms, and when we get vital enough to heal and comes back out, it looks like the same symptoms. Kind of like we were talking about a couple of weeks ago when I got symptomatic, and they said, well, it looked like mono, but it wasn't an active case, and we determined that it was just going through the process of when I had it when I was 15, and symptomatically it looked the same, felt the same, but it wasn't. Now, I could have bought into it and created it as a current present experience.
Exactly. And that's all part of, being able to do what we're talking about is all part of being able to step back and observe your mind in operation. That idea of becoming the thinker apart from the thoughts, the feeler apart from the feelings, the actor apart from the actions.
Right. So if it was stored with pain, then it's going to release with pain. That's the symptomatic that we were talking about. You have to decide if you want to continue to walk around with stored pain, blocking your heart and limiting your life. The alternative is to be willing to let it go when it gets stimulated. It only hurts for a minute, then it's over. That's what you were talking about. It can go back, it can pass back through quickly, or you can make it real.
Yeah, if the resistor's in charge, it can go on and on and on and on.
Yeah, that just triggered a memory of one of the first times that I went to see our physician, and he looks at the whole body, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. And I had talked to him about someone had like one of these bio machines or whatever, you put your hand on it and it reads all the things that are supposedly wrong with you, and you can buy into it. And that was one of the things that he told me. He said there is a difference in energy moving through you. They had come back and said that it was showing that I had breast cancer. And so he said, we'll do tests and everything just to ease your mind. He said, however, he said, those machines can't tell the difference of the energy moving through you, through your space, like, the radio waves or the TV waves or whatever going through space, versus the antenna catching it and holding on to it and making it real. He said, it doesn't mean that it has manifested in you physically. He said, yes, the energy could be passing through, and that's what their machine read. He said, but it can't say that it's a present experience. And, of course, we did some tests, and everything came back fine. And that made so much sense to me, and that's actually what happened when a few weeks ago I went through that healing crisis. But, the blood work did come back and they said, well, it shows mono, but it's not active. And it was like, well, this sure feels active, because symptomatically. But, yeah.
You had it when you were 15, like 20 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can go through it quicker than, like I think I was out of school for a couple of weeks or whatever, and then it took a few weeks after that before I was well enough to feel like I was back to norm. And this time, it was right at a week, but that was still quicker than it was the first time.
And it was an intense week.
It was.
The healing crisis can be intense, but that, the entering the practice of being able to observe the energy that's moving in us, I think, is a really big key, and that we don't have to become trapped and lost in it.
Right. And instead of, taking drugs which would just lock it back down again to be able to move more holistically. And I felt so bad, I probably would have taken the drugs, except I couldn't swallow. And so it was like, there's just no way I can take it. So I opted for going and getting vitamin C IVs and fluid IVs and passed on through more quickly and easily.
And alleviated a serious neck problem that had gone on for at least,
Yes.
6 years?
Yeah. Yep. It's like it came out from the back of my neck. It came out through my throat or whatever. But, yeah, definitely good to be done with that.
For sure.
So you have a choice. Do you want to try to change the world so that it doesn't disturb your samskaras? And samskaras is what he's talking about, the energies that you've locked in and not let flow through you. Or are you willing to go through this process of purification? Don't make decisions based on stimulated blockages. That's a good thought. Learn to be centered enough to just watch this stuff come up. That's what you were saying about being the observer.
Yeah.
Once you sit deeply enough inside to stop fighting the stored energy patterns, they'll come up constantly and pass right through you. They'll come up during the day, and they'll even come up in your dreams. Your heart will become accustomed to the process of releasing and cleansing. Just let it all happen. Get it over with. Don't process them one by one. That's too slow. Stay centered behind them and just let go. Just like the physical body purges bacteria and other foreign matter, the natural flow of your energy will purge the stored patterns from your heart. Your reward is a permanently open heart. There is no more value. You live in love, and it feeds you, and it strengthens you. That is an open heart. That is the instrument of the heart as it was meant to be. Allow yourself to experience every note the heart can play. If you relax and release, the purification of your heart is a wonderful thing. Set your eyes on the highest state that you can imagine. Don't take them off. If you slip, get back up. It doesn't matter. The very fact that you even want to go through this process of freeing the energy flow means you are great. You will get there. Just keep letting go. And that's the end of that chapter. And the next one's transcending the tendency to close. So we'll start on that one tomorrow.
Cool. Well, and, the bottom line, and I like the next chapter title, is really willingness. That's the accelerator. That's the cosmic grease. We actually used to, for those who have been to Heartland or haven't been to Heartland, those who have might remember that outside of the teaching center there was a deck, an eating place that was screened in, porch, and there was a small closet type structure there, small, actually a fairly large one. And it's where we kept all the cleaning supplies. So that little room was called cosmic grease. It's like everything that it takes to cleanse, the major key is willingness. I live in willingness. That's the cosmic grease. And allowing whatever's resonated, rather than having to hold the breath and hide it, allowing oneself to embrace and move through whatever's moving is a major key in the healing process. With willingness, we can take an issue that, maybe took 10 years to develop. And when it comes back up again, if one's standing in willingness, they can be done with it in 2 minutes. Depends on how much resistance there is in the structure to that energy moving. If one's in a totally willing state, that would be like a superconductor state. And so that energy can move in an instant. However, if one is in resistance, and it's interesting that in the Aramaic language, the word Satan does not mean a dude with a red suited tail and a pitchfork. It means the resistor, one who misleads. I mean, one holds the breath, locks up muscles, locks up tissue, restricts blood flow, restricts energy flow through the system. The system begins to starve for oxygen, nutrition, waste build up, toxicity builds up, kind of like, if the nice cool stream that runs by your front door has a tree fall in it, and over time, the branches coming down the stream get caught in the tree, and the tree turns into a swamp. You get all kinds of smelly swamp things in this, what, last year was a nice, clean, clear, flowing river. And it's no different throughout, literally, the microcirculatory vessels of the body. There are between 40 and 60 billion capillaries, depending on whose numbers you accept. And these are blood vessels that are anywhere from a 10th to 100th the thickness of a hair. Each one of them is a river. And they're controlled by muscle fibers. When one lives in an uptight state, everything locked up, tension. Think about you sitting in a nice quiet place, enjoying the day, and all of a sudden your mind hears a noise that represents to you some sort of a threat. Then people go into, it's quite purposely represented by these words, an uptight state. Literally, the muscles become tight. The muscle fibers that control blood flow become tight. It's a protective mechanism. If danger is really present and there's injury, then there's a danger of bleeding to death. So, the structure has adapted to restrict that blood flow, which is wonderful if there's a real danger and there's injury. But if there's not, and that state continues and goes on and becomes chronic, then basically what one has is, their whole circulatory system becomes like that swamp, because there was a blockage, and the locking down, the tightening of the muscle is what creates that blockage. If you watch the video, All the Rage, you can go to, it's a fabulous video that I've seen many people heal, especially back pain. It's about the work of a man named Dr. John Sarno. Sarno passed away a couple of years ago in his early 90s, and he worked right through just about to the completion of his life as a researcher at the Rusk Institute. And as a back surgeon, he stopped using the scalpel and started to teach people what their back pain was, and that their back pain was unconscious rage. And his explanation of the unconscious rage and why it turned into back pain, it's a totally and completely mental phenomenon, but the mental phenomenon causes a physical phenomenon to occur, and that is for muscles to tighten. When the muscles tighten, there's a restriction of blood flow. When there's a restriction of blood flow, if you cut a cell off from its oxygen supply, it just takes, according to Sarno, a 5% lack of oxygen for a cell to go into excruciating pain. And of course, if somebody's in your face yelling, relax, what happens? There's more of a tendency to tighten and restrict blood flow. Those blood vessels need to be opened. He's coined a term TMS. And TMS represents the mental phenomenon that creates a physical reaction. Tension mitosis syndrome is what he calls it. The tension from the mind tightens muscles. The tightened muscles restrict blood flow. The lack of oxygen nutrition, the buildup of wastes in the pathways to the cell creates pain. Actual physical pain. He's not saying that this is some sort of psychological mental pain. It is caused by the mind, but it is absolutely physical. And it is the opening of those blood vessels that really allows the blood flow to be restored. And if it's something that's gone on for years, for many people, this TMS has gone on for decades. It's like where they live their whole lives. And so they're in chronic pain. I don't know what the numbers are, but you look at the number of people who are dying from overdoses today. Most of them started with prescription drugs for valid pain uses. But anesthetizing pain doesn't overcome the muscle tension that locks up the capillaries, that restricts the blood flow, and allows a swamp to build throughout the structure. You know, where there's a swamp, there's infection. There are swamp creatures. They're called bacteria and viruses. If the blood flow is kept open and moving, if the musculature is in a relaxed, softened place. I can remember when I first started, you know, I came out of the business world to do this work. And I can remember when I first came out, and, you know, you've heard Patrick McGann, who's a dear friend of mine, a fellow naturopath, and he was my first massage therapist when I came out of the business world. And Patrick's a pretty big guy. He's got some pretty strong hands, and he almost literally used to cry when he would work on me because my body was so hard, so rock hard, the muscles. I had no awareness of that. I go back and think of it now, and it's like, man, I lived in crazy town. And until those muscle tensions are released, and, you know, there's the physiological aspect of it that will enhance release. This is what in the ancient teachings they meant as being holy. It wasn't about being down on your knees with your hands folded. It was about working on every level, the mental, the physical, the emotional, the relational, the environmental influences and impacts. That changes need to be made on all levels in order for healing to occur. It's called holistic or holy healing. So the forgiveness key is where you relieve from the mind the accumulated stresses of what in many cases is generations and generations and generations of pain and trauma. On a physiological level, you know, we've discovered a device that, you know, we've actually been using, Jeanie and I personally, for going on 3 years now, and actually sell and make available to people because of the profound impact we've seen on physiology. It's called an avicen. And basically what it does is through the palm of the hand, there's a heat exchanger in the palm of the hand, and by putting your hand in a chamber that has a vacuum around it that draws blood into the hand, and it has a heat pad, the blood is heated, and warm blood pouring over the muscle fibers at the head of those 40 to 60 billion capillaries relaxes or softens those muscles and opens the blood flow that, you know, has been restricted because people are uptight. Changes everything. You know, the owner of the designer of the machine and the owner of the company, his sister-in-law had migraine headaches that went on for 20 years. And he was working actually with the military at university in California. And they were working with soldiers who in the field would become overheated from environmental conditions, from the kind of, you know, if they're in war situations, conflicts and such, their physiologically would become overheated and their job performance would break down. So they were working with how do you get the body to cool down effectively. And what they discovered is that in the palm of the hand, there's a heat exchanger, literally like a radiator. You'll notice if people are cold, what do they spontaneously do? They rub their hands together. And when you rub your hands together, that generates heat from the friction. Well, the heat exchanger in the palm of the hand absorbs that heat into the blood, through the bloodstream, and literally warms the whole body. Or if you become overheated, you notice one of the things that happens is your palms sweat. That's your body throwing heat off. So discovering that, and then recognizing that if, you know, when I first ran into the avicen, it was actually Patrick McGann that introduced it to me, the gentleman I talked about who was a massage therapist and naturopath. And when he first told me about it, it's like, well, I think I'll just get myself a bucket of hot water and put my hand in it. Like, why would I want to pay for a machine? I'll just, and it's like, oh, well, the body has a thing called homeostasis. if you put your hand in a bucket of hot water, within a minute or so, the body says, oops, okay, we got enough heat there, and it will shut down those capillaries and the blood vessels so that the heat will not overheat the body. And so what the one body hack that the designer of the Avicen did was, there's a chamber that you put your hand in, creates a vacuum around your hand, distends all the blood vessels in your hand, draws more blood into your hand, and keeps that flow happening, which won't happen if you put your hand in a bucket of hot water. And within about 10 minutes or so of putting your hand in the machine, all of the blood in the body is warmed just a little less than 1 degree. Now, there's several ways you can do that. You can actually do that by soaking in a tub of hot water, bath. You can do it by an infrared sauna or a sauna, steam bath. You can do it by going out and running a few miles. There are many different ways you can do that. Unfortunately, if someone needs that warmed blood effect because of chronic restriction of blood flow, it gets a little messy because it's sweaty and dirty to do all those other things. So you get into a tub and you sweat, and the water's dirty, and it's not something somebody's going to do 2, 3, or even 4 times a day. But sometimes I or Jeanie will do with the Avicen. The machine is specifically designed so that it does not raise the body temperature enough to cause you to sweat, yet it raises the core temperature enough to affect the capillary action. The muscle fibers at the head of the capillaries, it's called a precapillary orifice, opens that up and allows blood flow, overcoming the disorder that Dr. Sarno discovered of TMS, tension in the muscle, softens and opens. So it's a device that's FDA approved for relaxation and for pain, because when you send oxygen to tissue, the pain tends to go away. So as I started to say, he was working with cooling the body through the hand. And he had a sister-in-law that had migraines, like 20 years she'd had migraines just about daily. And he came across research that was being done in Florida on women with hormone problems and thyroid problems in particular. And they were using T3 hormones to raise the body temperature to activate the thyroid. And what they found when they raised the body temperature just at less than 1 degree is people with headaches stopped having headaches. They disappeared. Well, he put 2 and 2 together. It's like, well, if I can, and of course, using these T3 hormones to raise the body temperature was effective, but it had a lot of side effects. It was another drug. Where he put 2 and 2 together, he's learned how to cool the body in order to enhance military performance. Well, now he's devised a way to heat the body using that, what in the medical world is called the arteriovenous anastomosis, the heat exchanger in the palm of the hand. Pretty brilliant, pretty amazing. And so if one lives in that tension state caused by the mind, the forgiveness works on the mental aspect of what creates that tension mitosis syndrome that Dr. Sarno discovered, and the Avicen works to provide heat throughout the body. That is enough. It's a whole body treatment. The blood that is in the palm of your hand, as your body circulating that blood leaves your hand, goes into the body, within about 3 minutes, it's back in your hand again. You get 3 rounds of that, about 10 minutes, and all of the blood in the body is warm. So from head to toe, I know the first thing that I had happen was the second time I put my hand in the machine, some numbness and tingling in the tips of my toes that had been with me for years disappeared. It's like, how is this? I got my hand in here and my toes are changing. So it's really, literally increasing blood flow throughout the whole structure. So pretty amazing physical form of forgiveness. The mental, emotional form, Yeshua had down pat. The physical form, this device is literally, my conclusion after using it for a few months was, this is a physical form of forgiveness. Pretty powerful, pretty amazing. So it goes hand in hand with, pun intended, hand in hand with the process of first century Aramaic forgiveness. Pretty amazing. And so I'm not sure why I went in that particular direction, but that's what came up. And if you're out there in listener land and you have a thought or a question, anything to share, press 1. If you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, then I'm going to invite you to call into the show on your phone directly. The call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you call that number, you're listening to the show, and then if you push 1, we'll be having a conversation. So what's on your mind? How can we support you? Miss Jeanie, do we have anything happening in the chat room or anything happening in the phone queue?
It is all quiet.
It is all quiet. Okay.
So if someone presses 1, you're first in line.
Yes.
A hand just went up.
Cool.
610. Miss Susan, hi.
Hey. Hi, Jeanie.
Hey there, young lady.
Jeanie, did you just say 2 hands went up?
Nope, just 1. Yours.
Just 1. I was going to say, I've spent a lot of time on the phone. So anyway, Michael, I was given by this amazing man who has joined our support group an article.
Right.
It's a book. It's a very small book called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment. Doesn't sound tantalizing. So anyway, I have been, and it's in audiobook form and physical form, and I have both of them, and I've been using both. They are, to me, one of the most fresh and amazing approaches to the tools and the things you've been teaching. However, and it's very interesting, this man found his way to his own realizations. His name is Thaddeus Golas, Golas. And I sent...
This is the author of the book?
Yeah.
Okay, I see it.
And
I got it.
Do you? Good for you.
I'm looking at it. Yep.
Yeah. Well, it comes in audiobook form, and I sent it to Dr. Tim first, and he liked it and has been using it along with a couple of other things on his part of the show. And I gave it to my son, who has been resistant, to, even though he says, you're one of the most, he says this to me, get this, and laugh, you're one of the most enlightened people I know, he says to me. I said, well, that's nice to hear. You haven't seen the half of it. But on the other hand, I said, if you really want something to listen to, because he travels a lot these days, listen to this and see what you think. And one part of it, Golas talks about our changing from contracted, which means in fear, anger, all the limitations, all the darkness.
Right.
Contracted or expanded, which is more, no resistance. I shouldn't use the word no. Allowing, curious, open, loving. And he said, I feel myself doing that. I feel myself expanding and contracting. I want to think about this. He got all excited about it. So we've been talking about this book, but it has been the center of my attention for about 2 weeks now. I listen to it, I read it, and I find it hugely comforting for a number of reasons. One is, he says, if you don't look at something that you immediately judge and disapprove of and say, I created this, then you are in a dualistic mode and you're in outer darkness yourself. He said the only way we can love completely or love with any reality is to have the love encompass and include the negative. When you feel you hate someone, and I love that he uses those words because those are my words from my childhood, and I still have them in there, and he's putting them into the soup. And he's saying, if you feel you hate someone, love yourself for that. So and I remember I told you that I ate sweets one day on an off moment, and you said, oh, we did that too recently, and all I did was look at it and bless it, and then I ate it, and I thought, you did that. That's what you did. You loved it. You included it, that you would do it all the time. But you didn't isolate it away and say, this is bad. I know I'm all over the place as I talk. But he says,
well, and recognizing that everything you do with your mind is important.
Yeah.
You know, that's the builder. That's the core of the whole thing, is what you do with your mind.
Right.
So there are things that are physiologically destructive to the energy system, and if I add the destructive mind energy to it, I just tripled the impact. Okay, it might be destructive, and if I stand as love and I bless it, then I have the power to help to transmute it, at least some part of the negative aspect of it.
Well, believe me, I'm taking that in, and I haven't gone hog wild, but he says, love is the highest and holiest action because it always contains that which is not love within itself. It always and ever moves to include the unloving. And another interesting thing about this guy is he first had his enlightenment experiences by taking LSD. And, you know, we all have feelings about that, and we don't know how to finally know how that affects the mind. But when he wrote this, he included a couple of places he talked about having what he called a bummer LSD trip, where he saw nothing but darkness and ugly creatures, drooling, hateful creatures, and he looked at them and he was just suffering terribly until the thought came to him. It was the mind again, Michael, that you were saying.
Yeah.
Until the thought came to him, what does this need but love? How about you love this? Or something like that. It was much better than that. And he said instantly he was on the other side of the universe. He was in bliss. And I don't get the sense in the article that he recommends LSD as a way to get anywhere. He made it his business to find his way there without those drugs. And
right.
So, but a weird thing was, on an impulse, I sent this article to both Jacob and Luke with an email that said, mind you, I am not sending this so that you can feel free to take weed or drugs. You've had your experiences with that. You know that that's not good for you. However, this is the most amazing, sort of user-friendly, contemporary, denying nothing bad that's going on in the world article or book. And if you feel inclined, I'd love to talk about it with you. Of course, I've heard nothing from either boy. I'm not sure either one's going to do it, and I'm not going to mention it again. But I wondered if you'd like to have a crack at it.
Oh, yes, I'm looking at it on Amazon. I'm looking at, you know, the reviews are pretty cool, except, and there's that old saying of, you know, where was the one place that Yeshua never had a miracle? In his own hometown. And he's got a nephew that reviews it and gives it 1 star and says it's all trash. But the other reviews are really, you know, really look good. But I just quickly read through a review by his nephew. He's like, this is just pure drivel.
Oh, boy. Well, he probably knew him. And the guy doesn't deny that he's a mess. He was penniless. He was writing this book in San Francisco in a one-room, you know, attic place that he said, I have to choose this as my joy now that I am here doing this. And he had a lot of doubts about doing it. He's recently died. He died in his early 70s, I think. I'm so sorry. I wish I'd had a chance to talk to him, but basically everything he wanted to say, it's very carefully written and easy to read. And it's about, I think the listen is about an hour and a half. And so that's a lot in one sit, but I listen to it in increments, and he's very clear about chapter divisions and so forth. And
cool.
It's just another arrow to add to the quiver of what you're already doing.
Absolutely. I'm on it. I'm with you. I love that in the review that his nephew does, and, you know, as I say, there are hundreds of reviews, and they're all 4 and 5 stars, but his nephew gives this 1 star, and his nephew mentions that he studied theology, and so, you know, it's drivel because he's bought into, I'm sure, some of the churchianity stuff on hostility and fear that, you know, but anyway, just interesting to observe there.
That is, well, you're going to get stuff like that. In fact, it's very confusing. I've been on the internet trying to understand about statin drugs and about intermittent fasting and keto dieting and so forth to get my energy back. And I know doing the work is probably much more important than that, but I'm listening to everything, and there are always naysayers to everything. And so in a way, we've been cut adrift. When medical people say one thing, these guys say another thing. Nobody's talking to each other, and we have to be our own advocate. And this gets hard. It's hard.
Well, you know, 2,000 years ago, there was this guy who said, the way is narrow. Few will find it. Because there's so much, you know, so much sophistry in the world. Actually, came across what for me was a new word actually just this morning. You know, you look at fratricide or homicide is to kill, and I had never heard the word used in terms of brainwashing and killing the mind, but menticide. And much of the world literally specializes in killing the ability of the human mind to operate as it's designed to operate and to lock us into this hostility and fear game. So it's just was like, oh, I never thought of that word in that context.
Wow.
But that's what, you know, I mean, it is natural for love. And again, I would, in reading his book, I'll probably change the meaning of the word love every time I read it, because it sounds like he uses it the way I used to use it and the way the whole world uses it. It's something we're going to do as opposed to what we are, but to bring love present to whatever's moving sounds right on track, and I'll look forward to reading through it. Now, it looks like it's out of print, and I see that the cost of the book is pretty, like $250. I guess it must be out of print.
No, you don't need it. I'll send it to you. I just sent you the video. You should get it in a text.
Oh,
and
okay.
I'll
cool.
try to find the paper. It's on my computer somewhere, and I'll send that to you. Don't bother with the book. It's out there for free. So definitely don't spend $250.
Cool.
But
yeah, I've seen people selling my book for that, and it's like, boy, I ought to go back and get that printed again. But yeah, this is.
Oh yeah.
This is what happens to books that are out of print. So.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Well, it's so totally rich. And
nice.
Otherwise, I don't have anything to report. It's good to be able to come on the radio show and hear you talk, though. Thank Jeanie too for reading. The Michael Singer, Jeanie, you're reading it much better. It's just
I am attempting to go slow.
You are. Well, our brains need. In fact, you know what I do with most audiobooks, or many? I slow the speech down by an increment. They give you choices. And the Sunbird book, A Walk in the Physical, he's a whippersnapper. He reads it gangbusters fast because he knows it so well. Slowed him down. And suddenly he sounds like an older man. Who cares? I can hear it all and take it in. So that's a great thing if you're using Audible. Maybe other audiobook places do that too. But they give you that option of slowing down the reading. I don't think that's true with Golas's book, but you won't need to. He's older when he's reading it, and he reads it very beautifully.
Cool. Sweet and awesome. Thank you for introducing it.
Well, and then if it grabs you, I'd love to. Oh, I'm going to ball you out too, Michael. One more small school marm. You said anesthetize again. You said anesthetize today.
Aha.
Aha. If that's the only thing you do that's off the mark, you're in good shape.
I'll go for it.
I don't want to have to do a worksheet every time you say anesthetize.
Well, I'll keep doing
like
it just for you.
Okay. Just so I do more work. Okay.
I'm here only to be truly helpful. And if you have worksheets to do and I can serve by bringing something up for you to do worksheets on, I am fully available.
Oh, all right.
For eternity.
Okay, so if you do it again, I will take it as a compliment. Thank you. Okay. We'll see what happens
All right.
next time you do it.
Cool.
All right.
All right, young lady. Well, any other thoughts for you?
Oh, no, not really. Thank you. Thanks for asking. You all fully at home, gardening?
We are. Actually, we just expanded our native species garden. We got the first round of it completed, about 65 or so native plants in it. And we had a couple of trees to put in, and they wouldn't really fit in that garden. So we just created a new, how many square feet is it, Jeanie? We added about half again.
700 square feet.
Yeah,
Wow.
So I went and put cardboard down on the lawn. Yesterday, Jeanie and I took all the stone. We've got a stone foundation around it, just like decorative stone to keep the soil that we're building on top of the lawn in place. So we just put those stones in place yesterday, and I put cardboard out this morning, and I've got grass clippings on top of the cardboard on half of it. I've still got another half to do. I kind of got to the point of I need an intermission, so...
Wow. Good for you. That's impressive. We made this tiny kitchen garden, and it is just busting out with so much that we're taking clumps. You know, we tie them up with string and take bunches to church to give to the folks there.
Nice. Cool. All right, well, you have a blessed day, dear heart.
Thank you. You too, and thanks for the show.
All right, lots of love. Appreciate you. Yes, Jeanie, well, do we have anybody else in the chat room or anything else happening in the phone queue? We've got, well, I guess about 2 minutes left, so not much time.
Yeah, maybe announce again about the potential for the intuitive development.
Yeah, we could do that. We're looking at doing an intuitive development intensive if you're interested. It'll be an online Zoom-type intensive, probably 10 weeks, 2 sessions a week on a Saturday and Sunday. And we're going to do that early enough on Saturday and Sunday so that the folks in Europe that are participating in the book study club can participate. It was that group that kind of inspired it. And then, do you have the dates in front of you for what's coming up with the book club? Maybe we should announce that, because we are going to do What is the World? We're going to release, we've actually got 3 sessions we've committed to for the Course in Miracles study that they're doing in the Hear My Voice book club, and we're going to release 3 of our catalog videos, ones that normally people would have to buy through that, so that people will be able to participate in that. So do you have the dates in front of you you might share with people, sweetie?
Yes, I do.
Great. Cool.
So we did June the 1st, and you can access that recording. If you go to the website under Schedule and Global Online Book Club, then there's Global Online Book Club ACIM, A Course in Miracles. And so the June the 1st, it's 3 hours in length, and so that link is out there. So the next one is going to be June the 29th, and then July the 20th, and August the 17th. So those are the next 3 that we will be doing, with showing the videos that we've got and then doing a live question and answer afterwards. And then at that point, Inca, I guess, will determine based on interest and everything, whether she continues it. And if we join her, then it would be live instead of being a video. And then, of course, we're still doing the Global Book Club around the Why book, the 2nd and the 4th. Gotcha, Michael, or have you disappeared? Okay, well, we're down to about 15 seconds, so I'll just say what Michael usually says, and that is create the best year yet, or the best day yet even, of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. Bless you.